I think we should take advantage of what this current situation is. There is a reason why we are stuck with all our kids in the same house. Maybe one of the things that we have neglected, and that is what has crippled our society, is that we have not paid our children as much personal attention as we should have. I think we have outsourced the training of our children for too long, either with the government or with the public or with schools or with house helps. But now we are all forced to learn and know our children better. There are two types of education. There's the formal education and knowing books and knowledge. And there is the education of the mind and the soul of a human being, right? Which has to do with things like the kind of home training, learning of values, understanding relations, knowing how to build in a unit, learning teamwork, and understanding that. So that's the formal and the formal. So number one, there's a positive side to it. We have an opportunity, a great opportunity, to be with our children, bond with them, understand them better, impart knowledge to them. You see, because there are when we get a university degree, at least when I got my university degree, University of Ibadan, it will say that it's qualified in character and learning. You see, and I believe that most public institutions and schools these days have forgotten the issue of character and focused on learning. I think this draws us back to the reset button for education generally. Now, having said that, I think that a number of children who don't have access to the modern amenities like internet and television have been thoroughly left out. Before we were saying there are 13 million children out of school. Right now, virtually every child is out of school. So, and some of them that never had the opportunity of computers, of television, of radio, right, can't have the opportunities to learn. This brings us back to how do we, what we want to do is that we want to make sure that the learning cycle of the generations to come is not truncated as a result of COVID. But we have to be careful, because when children go to school, again, in a pandemic situation, the pandemic will come and it will go. We had the Spanish flu in 1918 and it lasted 4 or 5 years, it left. As a matter of fact, the vaccines had come, and if not vaccines, people had gone accustomed and immune to it. So the human spirit, the human anatomy, right, has a great power to heal itself. But while we are at a process when we don't know where we are going, I think we need to adjust. Now, technology is also flying high, and there are several ways of sharing and imparting information and knowledge without necessarily going to schools. How many schools, for example, if you do the Nigerian average, primary school, secondary school, teacher to student ratio is so high, it goes to 35, 36, 37. In a pandemic situation, this is dangerous. It's a recipe for danger. You have crowded classrooms. Some of those classrooms, they don't have tables, they don't have chairs. Not to talk of running water to wash hands. While we are still keeping quiet, while we are observing the COVID and the children at home, this is a time that governments should focus on education infrastructure so that when it goes back, and what do I mean by education infrastructure? You have the schools, you have the buildings, you have the classrooms, you have the desks, but you also have the teachers. This is a time to retrain teachers. As a matter of fact, before we start saying we are opening schools, we should do a lot of teacher training on teachers how to use remote methods to teach students. We have to upgrade the capacity of the students, upgrade the capacity and the facilities within the schools. Now, this is a time when television and radio, at least 25% of television and radio time should be dedicated to education. Subjects. A student should be able to sit down somewhere at a particular point in time and go and listen to biology O-level, lesson this and this. And it should be incorporated into radio. School syllabuses should be incorporated into radio programs. University syllabuses should be incorporated into radio, television. Granted, you say not everybody has a television, but everybody has access to radio. And this is where we are missing it. But for me, it's not in the plan. We have not managed this COVID-19 thing in the country very well. And we have not managed it in a way that is reaching the poor, is reaching the underreached. When they will tell us that they shared palliatives, but we don't even know who received those palliatives or whether they were equitably shared. So if you cannot reach people with palliatives, you don't have a plan for them with education, then there is a problem. So this is a good opportunity. Don't forget that we have a problem already with our attitude to children and children's rights in many states of the country. That's why some people can afford to allow children to roam the streets in the name of religion, called al-Majiri. Their own kids would not be on the streets, but other people's kids. So is the care involved, whether it's health care or education care, the care in the component is not there. But we can do certain things. If we incorporate radio, if we incorporate television, for now, by the time we do that, at least we'll know that there will be a generation who are taken care of despite the pandemic. My daughter's been at home. Unfortunately, she goes to school where they've made arrangements for online classes. She's done online classes. She's done online supervised exams, and she's concluded her session, Folks in the university can continue to study, because they have books they can read. There is the internet, and they have their notes, So I think we should be a bit more patient. And I think before they start to, as we've said, before they open schools, they should look for certain standards. Schools should have, proper water, running water, sanitary. Basically, it is sanitary facilities. And that they should make sure that no school has any class of children with more than 20 children in the class. Once they have put things like that in place,